Champion Cleveland Indians and the 2014-2015 American League champion Kansas City Royals. Hi everyone, I'm Brian Lefevre along with former Major League pitcher C.J. Nitkowski, and with Players Weekend, the players get to pick their own nicknames on the back of their jerseys. And for the Indians, Francisco Lindor's nickname is Mr. Smile. And in game one of the series last night, CJ, he provided a lot of smiles.
He sure has, and he's really been doing that since he's put on a Cleveland Indians uniform. This is a special player, but last night he was really showing off the glove. 23 years old. He is now in his third season here in the big leagues, but he's also done a really nice job offensively. It really sticks out for Lindor this year is the 23 home runs. His career best last year was only 15, so the power is something new to Francisco Lindor's game. On the other side, when you look at the Kansas City Royals, you can't look at them without talking about Eric Hosmer, who has been red hot as of late. But the season did not start that way for him. Back on April 25th, he was hitting just 195. Well, since then, it has been 343 with 20 of his 21 home runs. A lot has been made about the fact that Hosmer will be a free agent at the end of the year. He is going to do very well for himself based on how he has been playing here for the Royals in 2017.
And we welcome those of you on FS1 who just watched the Nationals and the Mets, the Royals and the Indians. And coming into tonight, Cleveland has a 7-game lead over the Royals after winning last night 4-0. It was the 4th time this year the Cleveland Indians have shut out the Royals, and the Royals recently got a lift when they got Salvador Perez back to their lineup from the disabled list. And they get Mike Moustakas back tonight as the designated hitter. He's been out of the starting lineup the last 2 games because of a sore knee. In game 1, it was Ryan Merritt, Joe Smith, Tyler Olson, and Cody Allen pitching an 8-hit shutout to beat the Royals 4-0. Tonight, CJ, it's right-hander Mike Clevinger.
Clevinger's done a really nice job here for the Indians, filling in first when Danny Salazar went on the DL early in the season. He took his rotation spot. Then for a little while, the Indians went to a 6-man. So he's been kind of that swing man, now filling in for Josh Tomlin, who was on the DL. But you see the numbers there. Very good for Clevinger. Very impressive opponent's batting average against, and those 99 strikeouts in 88 and a third. He knows how to generate swings and misses.
Here are the Indians defensively. They are without Jason Kipnis, who is on the disabled list for a 3rd time this year. So Jose Ramirez shifts over to second base. And the rookie, Yandy Diaz, is filling in at 3rd. And then the Gold Glover, Mr. Smile, Francisco Lindor, is at short. And with that, Whit Merrifield takes a whack at the first pitch. Roberto Perez runs to the screen, but it's on the other side, and it's 0-1 on Merrifield. Last year, Whit Merrifield hit 2 home runs for the Royals. This year, he has 15.
Well, he has really been a breakout player for the Royals, taking advantage of that opportunity with the playing time. You love seeing players when they get their opportunities. The guy who was on that 40-man roster with the Royals for 3 years, despite never getting any service time. And then it wasn't until after he was taken off the roster that he got an opportunity to get back on and play in the big leagues.
If it comes down, Diaz wants it. And he's got it.
That's some pretty incredible hang time. But check this out here for Mike Clevinger and what he uses. 4-seam fastball 52% of the time. Slider, changeup, and curveball are the secondary offerings. And the batting averages against all of those pitches, very good. Just 129 against the slider, and he's only allowed 1 home run on that curveball, despite only using it 10% of the time.
Lorenzo Cain, who is enjoying a great second half, bats with 1 out and nobody on. The Royals' biggest move on offense at the trading deadline was picking up Melky Cabrera from the Chicago White Sox, and that moved Lorenzo Cain from the number 3 spot to the number 2 position, and that has worked out well for Cain and Cabrera.
He's swinging a really good bat, and it looks like now, at least for this year, that the Royals have what they want at the top of their lineup with Merrifield and Cain. These guys have done an excellent job.
That is strikeout number 100 on the year for Mike Clevinger. And for the Indians, they have several big strikeout pitchers.
Check this out from Clevenger. 3 fastballs, 92, 94, and then elevating out of the zone with 93. An excellent execution there in an 0-2 count.
And now Melky Cabrera. 145 hits this year. That's the 6th most in the American League. Almost hit by a curveball.
It's played out a lot differently than everybody expected, seeing Melky Cabrera in this Kansas City Royals uniform. Second tour of duty for him with this club. But all the talk at the beginning of the season was, would the Royals sell? Well, they played too well to sell. They actually went in a different direction. They added an impact player in Melky Cabrera, who's going a little bit back and forth, thinking some good fun there with Roberto Perez.
You don't need Players Weekend for Melky Cabrera to have fun on the baseball field. 2 balls and 1 strike. And it's really interesting because he was with the Royals in 2011, which is the best season of his major league career. And that was the year that a bunch of young Royals got to the big leagues. And now all those young Royals are world champions and all-stars. Cabrera's down on a ground ball to short, and Mike Clevenger has a 9-pitch top of the 1st. And we were talking about additions to the Royals lineup. The Indians picked up Edwin Encarnacion during the offseason. Jay Bruce at the trading deadline, and Jay Bruce has driven in 13 since joining the Indians, coming over from the New York Mets. The Indians tonight get right-hander Jason Hamill, and he misses up and away, ball 1.
See Francisco Lindor. The batting average has come down a little bit, but the power is up. Probably the biggest surprise, I think, with him this year. Mentioned in the open, 15 a year ago and 23 already this year.
Alex Gordon out in left field brings it down. Lindor is out, number 1.
Well, let's take a look at Hammer's numbers there, as you see his nickname on the back of his jersey. 6-9 overall at 4.73 ERA, but he has been very good of late. That's probably the closer thing to pay attention to now with Jason Hamill, who historically has really struggled in the second half. He had a career post All-Star break ERA over 5 coming into the season, but he has been much better. Slight adjustment that he has made that you can see right here. Pitching from the stretch the entire time. He eliminated that windup
got a little bit more simple with his delivery, and it has really paid off here as of late.
Strike one to Austin Jackson.
No-brainer hammer for Hamill. But it's a pretty good nickname too. But you got to drop the hammer. You got to have a really good.
You will mix in a good hammer every now and then. Coming off a 15-win season with the world champion Chicago Cubs. That was a career high by 5 wins. And then all of a sudden, in his first year with the Royals, his ERA was over 6 by the end of May. Drilled to right field. Melky Cabrera is there to make the play. Austin Jackson is out, number 2. Mentioned the Royals getting a big lift with Salvador Perez and his 4 Gold Gloves coming off the disabled list during their last homestand. They have Gordon, Kane, and Cabrera in the outfield. Cheslor Cuthbert filling in for Mike Moustakas at third, with Escobar, Merrifield, and Hosmer around the horn. 2 down to Jose Ramirez. Fastball in for a strike.
Let's take a look at the pitch arsenal here for Jason Hamill. You see the 2 different kinds of fastballs that he'll throw right around 50% of the time. The slider, which has been very good for him, 223 batting average against that pitch. You'll see the changeup occasionally, and that curveball just 9% of the time.
0-2 on Ramirez.
It's interesting because that slider for him, best batting average against, 223, and it's a pitch that he uses a lot. But he has allowed 7 home runs on that slider this year, so it seems like it's been almost all or nothing against the Jason Hamill slider this season.
One and two. You mentioned him going exclusively to the stretch. 5 years ago, that might be a bigger story than it is today. We are seeing more and more pitchers, starting pitchers, going to the stretch exclusively, and then some guys with a modified windup, which is basically the stretch. Salvador Perez right at home plate. He will bring it down. So Hamill matches Clevenger with a 1-2-3 first inning. Roberto Perez as he steps in to begin the top of the second inning. At .320 batting average is second in the American League, to go along with 155 hits. Clevenger starts him off with a curveball for strike one.
When you're having this kind of season, you're beating up some fastballs as a left-handed hitter. against righties, and Eric Hosmer has done exactly that. There is really not a place to go. You see the 229 average middle in on fastballs, but he has been unbelievable really against the right-handed hitter all season. And so you think, okay, well, I can pound him in, maybe is probably your safest bet. But those numbers, especially the ones that are up and away, down and away, those are the places you usually would go. Eric Hosmer has proved otherwise this season.
On pace to surpass several categories for new career highs this year. He chops it off the plate. Perez makes a good play to get to it on one hop. One down.
For the Royals, batting fifth, the catcher, number 13, Salvador Perez.
This is the third time this year that Clevinger faces the Royals. He had a start on May the 7th in Kansas City. He gave up one hit in 5 2/3 innings. And altogether pretty good, a 3.38 ERA.
He's done a nice job. He's got a good arm, good stuff. There's been a little bit of that back and forth. 16 starts for him on the season, but this is a nice option to have as the Indians have had to go through their rotation a little bit deeper than they wanted to. Ryan Merritt started last night against the Royals. He was really good in the postseason a year ago, kind of a surprise addition when they had a couple of injuries to Salazar and Carrasco. And so the backup pieces of the bullpen, excuse me, the rotation here in Cleveland have been good ones. The depth always gets tested. Doesn't matter who you are, how deep you think your organization is. It always gets tested a little bit. And the Cleveland Indians have been very fortunate with the guys that have stepped up in the absence of the regular 5 starters.
1-2 on Salvador Perez. Just off the disabled list with a strained muscle on his right side, which is still bothering him. Two balls, 2 strikes. Talking to Terry Francona before the game tonight, I think one of the biggest surprises in the American League in the first half. Into the middle of June, the Cleveland Indians starting rotation had the highest ERA in the American League. And they put the pieces back together. They now have the best ERA in the American League. Full count on Perez. Josh Tomlin is on the disabled list right now. It's another year where the Indians have had to endure several injuries. And Perez takes a fastball down the middle at 95. And Clevinger strikes out his second tonight.
It's not an easy thing to do as far as getting Salvador Perez to take a pitch for a strike, especially in a 3-2 count. But this ball is painted down and away at 95 miles an hour. And Perez, a guy who usually is a free swinger who can be difficult to walk, got pitched a near perfect fastball down away in that spot by Mike Clevinger.
So Mike Moustakas with 35 home runs. 1 home run away from tying the Royals single season record. You got to go back to 1985 when Steve Balboni hit 36 for the Royals, and nobody has hit more since. Even in the steroid era, nobody approached Balboni's record. He's ahead in the count, 3 balls and no strikes.
Another guy having a career year, another guy headed to free agency at the end of the season. It's been incredible to see, really, for him and Eric Hosmer, the power. Back-to-back years now here for Eric Hosmer, but really the explosion of power for Mike Moustakas. He has really turned himself into a pretty incredible player, and listen, the timing couldn't have been more perfect for him. You'd love to have 6 great years leading into free agency. It doesn't always work out that way, but if you're going to have your best, you might as well have it right before you're getting ready to hit the market. Not that he did it on purpose or anything like that, but just pretty amazing to see a guy really had it figured out. The Royals always believed the power was there. They believed in it, and he has really shown it here this season.
Just 2 years ago, he was sent down to AAA in the middle of the season. That's how badly he was struggling at the big league level. And he will take inside and ball 4. So Clevinger gives the Royals their first base runner. Moustakas is at first with 2 down. MLB wants to see your best plays this summer, whether they're in the backyard or on the diamond. Show us what you've got on social with hashtag MLBThePlay, and we'll feature some of the best all season long.
I love this idea about Major League Baseball. It's a really smart thing to do. Kids love taking videos themselves. Parents love taking videos of their kids, pictures of their kids. So why not get involved with some big league baseball? I think it's a really great idea, and you might find yourself on TV somewhere.
Fouled away by Alcides Escobar. And speaking of the kids, the big leaguers get to be like kids this weekend with Little League-like uniforms and wearing their nicknames on the back of their jerseys instead of their last name.
The bats, the socks, I mean, just a really fun weekend for these big leaguers who seem to have really enjoyed it. The shoes, what we have seen some of these guys doing with their shoes this weekend has been pretty incredible. The details.
Looped into right field. Jay Bruce is coming up, and he's got it. So the Royals get a 2-out walk, but Strand Moustakas. Sponsored by Liberty Mutual, helping drivers worry less. And by Budweiser, proudly brewed across America. This Bud's for you. Jason Hamill had a 9-pitch bottom of the first inning. And now strike one with a fastball to Edwin Encarnacion. With his next home run, that will be 30 in 6 consecutive seasons. This is his first in Cleveland. There's the hammer we were talking about. 0-2.
You start thinking about when you got a guy that's been swinging the bat very well the way Encarnacion has, where do you go with the fastball? Well, you can see it there. Inside, down and in, middle in, even up and in, up over the plate are areas where Edwin Encarnacion has struggled against the fastball with right-handed pitchers.
That's surprising with a hitter with the big numbers like Encarnacion that there were so few hot zones against the fastball.
And it's only batting average. Doesn't mean everything, you know, at the end of the day. But it's always worth noting this is the exact kind of information that all of the hitters and pitchers will look at. That's why you see that fastball right there trying to go in to finish off Encarnacion. But check this out. So I was talking about the socks and the shoes. Well, Edwin Encarnacion's taking it to another level too. He's gone with the arm sleeves. I mean, those colors, I mean, it's amazing to see around the league. Everyone pretty much has the same ones. They don't necessarily match any particular team. Kind of feel like you're on a Caribbean vacation or something. When you look at those.
Well, I think the question has been answered. How would the players embrace this weekend?
Yeah. Any opportunity to change it up, they are all in. And really, that's the only place you can wear those socks.
Tried to tie him up. Encarnacion asked for an appeal. He got rung up. It wasn't Salvador Perez or the Royals wanting a call from the first base umpire, Chris Guccione. It was Encarnacion.
Yeah, this is a kind of a funny move, and he did go around there, but you see that a lot of times from Adrian Beltre. He's kind of made that famous real jokingly point down to the umpire and ask him to appeal a swing. Well, you got to be careful what you ask for. You're only supposed to do that when you know for sure that you did not swing. And so for Edwin Encarnacion, down on strikes, but great execution by Jason Hammel. We just showed the scouting report. He got to 2 strikes, and he tried to pound Encarnacion inside, and he did.
Jay Bruce takes a curveball high. Bruce came right after the deadline, August 9th. He has hit 4 home runs. He has driven in 13. Good fastball at the knees, 1-1. That might surprise some people. Left-hand hitters, the most home runs since 2010. Jay Bruce, more than Chris Davis, more than David Ortiz.
You and I cover this game and watch a lot of baseball. If you asked me that question, said since 2010, I would not have answered Jay Bruce. I'm not sure if he would have been in my first 3 or 4 guesses, quite honestly.
That would have been a very good trivia question.
It would have been. The problem with trivia questions these days is everyone can look up stuff so fast, right? It's got a little bit of a different feel, but kind of under the radar, to say the least, for Jay Bruce since the 2010 season.
Plays off a breaking ball, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Start to wonder just a little bit with him, the success that he had as a Cincinnati Red. Some struggles there with the New York Mets. First time for him to go through that whole deal of being traded. Start to wonder, is it an Ohio thing for him? Second time around, a little bit easier for him coming here to Cleveland after going through the trade situation once already a year ago.
Breaking ball got the inside corner. Bruce is not so sure, and he'll have a word or two with DJ Rayburn.
So this is a smart way to go about it if you're Jay Bruce. Now you're going to see this ball probably catch just a little bit of the strike zone. I think it did, even though it finished and the finish looked a lot worse. As you see the curveball grip, and there's a lot of movement here from Salvador Perez, who's pretty good at receiving, but that's a lot of glove movement as far as trying to sell that to a home plate umpire. But for Jay Bruce, he just wants to put that in the home plate umpire's ear a little bit. You know, you don't want to argue that in the sense where you're going to get kicked out of the game, but you say that there's no way that's going to fly all night. That ball definitely finished in as far as he's concerned and down. You got to make sure that you let a home plate umpire know that you feel that way. Make him second guess himself a little bit. I think that's kind of part of Jay Bruce's plan right there.
Is that effective?
It can be for the right umpire. I mean, they'll tell you it's not. But I think if you handle it the right way, you're at least going to give yourself a chance. You sit there and you yell and scream and you say bad words. That's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help any situation. But I think it is a smart idea, especially if you're a respected player around the league.
1 strike on Carlos Santana. And Jason Hammel likes his curveball in the 2nd inning. He has thrown 2 to Santana, and the count is no balls, 2 strikes.
I like it too. I mean, it's a ton of break right here. This is the pitch that he rarely uses. We mentioned just 9% of the time, but look how much Carlos Santana missed that baseball by. To give you an idea how tight that break is, or that he was completely sitting on the fastball and guessing there and guessed wrong.
Fastball is outside. Hammel did not throw 1 curveball in the 1st inning. He has thrown 5 in the 2nd inning and has 2 strikeouts.
See Salvador Perez wanting the fastball in. Jason Hammel shaking to the 2, which should be the curveball.
That one stayed up. Hosmer will connect with Hammel, and that's the inning. 6 up, 6 down for the Indians against Hammel. No runs, no hits through the first 2 innings. Cheslor Cuthbert will lead off against Mike Clevenger. Cuthbert is filling in at third base while Mike Moustakas is getting over a sore right knee. And he played a lot of third base for the Royals last year when Moustakas was lost in May to a knee injury.
And he did a nice job too, and that's another luxury. I mentioned the Indians with the depth of their starting rotation, how guys have filled in and done a nice job. Well, with the Kansas City Royals, and this started last year with Whit Merrifield, and then of course, as you mentioned, Cuthbert as well, filling in at third base. Guys that did a really nice job. I mean, Cuthbert, especially defensively. Mike Moustakas is a very good defensive third baseman, and to sit there and throw another glove in there that's equally as good is a nice luxury to have.
Hit right to Zimmer. 1 down in the 3rd inning. All right, it's not just Players Weekend for the players.
We get to pretend that we're players.
FS1 gave us our own jerseys.
They did.
You played for many teams, but you didn't play for the Indians.
I mean,
correct?
You could really put the standings up with a blindfold on and a dart and throw it and probably hit a team or an organization that I played for, but the Indians were not one of them. So, you know, I call mostly Ranger games. That's my day job. So it's a little uncomfortable having the Indians jersey. So I apologize to any Rangers fans that are kind of wondering what's going on. But these are cool. I mean, these are definitely cool jerseys. I was kind of iffy. I wasn't sure how I felt about the whole thing they were doing. I get it now. It's awesome.
And the players obviously are loving it. And I didn't want you to be the only guy with a 2-letter nickname. So.
I appreciate it. You know, it's hard because when they first sent us the emails, and it was a few weeks ago, I wasn't sure exactly where they were going with this whole thing. So I didn't really, regrettably, put a lot of effort into nickname. And when your name's CJ, you know, it doesn't really get much shorter than that. Yes, C or Siege, you get those. But I was like, just CJ's fine. But now that I realize this whole big deal, I think I would have put a little bit more effort in.
Christopher John, for the record.
But very cool of FS1 to do that for us. You know, something that can get fought over at my house when I get home amongst my children.
2-2 on Alex Gordon, who had 3 hits last night, 2 singles and a double to get his batting average up over 200. That's been a struggle for him all season long.
This may be one of the biggest mysteries in baseball as far as what has happened to Alex Gordon and his swing. As you see him fouling off this changeup from Mike Clevenger. That is a good one. Look at the movement there at 88 miles an hour. It's a good looking pitch, but since he signed that deal, hitting just .213 with a .302 on base percentage.
Got him with a fastball, and that's 3 for Clevenger. 2 down in the 3rd inning.
What a great combination here from Clevenger. We saw and showed you that really good changeup previously. Well, you come back with a fastball and a good one, elevated up and in with some good life, some good movement. Alex Gordon fouls it off. Roberto Perez is able to hold on to it. Clevenger has looked really sharp here first time through the order, but now things get flipped with Whit Merrifield. We'll see. Always the big tests. Guys start to get a 2nd and 3rd look.
Clevenger got Merrifield on a pop up to 3rd in the 2nd inning, or the 1st inning rather. And especially with Clevenger, and just watching him in between pitches is very fidgety, a lot of movement. And early in his big league career, Terry Francona, pitching coach Mickey Callaway really had to get him to settle down, especially warming up in the bullpen. He would leave it all in the bullpen and he wouldn't have a whole lot left when he got to the mound.
There's an adjustment period there, especially when you do come out of the bullpen as a reliever, go into that starting rotation, controlling that energy, not being too laid back and trying to go 7, but also not blowing it out either through the first couple of innings.
And now Merrifield is not happy with the home plate umpire. Clevenger has 4 strikeouts in 3 scoreless innings. 2.5 innings, and we have 1 base runner. So a good start for the Indians' Mike Clevenger and the Royals' Jason Hamill. And this is rookie Yandy Diaz, who was playing for the first time since Thursday when he had a career night against Chris Sale and the Boston Red Sox with 4 hits. That was a career high. 2 runs driven in, 4 runs scored, also career highs. And he chops it out to Escobar at short. 2 pitches and 1 out for Hamill in the 3rd inning.
These guys have gotten off to a really good start so far. Both starting pitchers looking very sharp.
Giving a look at some of the injured Royals, and this has happened very suddenly. Danny Duffy was placed on the disabled list today. He was supposed to start tomorrow for the Royals. Joaquim Soria, Neftali Feliz, back end of the bullpen guys, they're on the disabled list. Trevor Cahill, who came over in a trade with the Padres to be their 5th starter, is on the disabled list. All 4 of those pitchers have been placed on the disabled list in the last 2 weeks.
The Royals during their run, especially 14 and 15, stayed pretty healthy. And you know, it's been pretty incredible to watch what they did over those 2 years, and to be able to have everybody in place and everybody available pretty consistently throughout both of those seasons, it's kind of unheard of. And especially now we get to start to as we get here near the end of August into September, a lot of guys starting to feel it, but they've always been able to plow through, as you see Dave Island there, the pitching coach with the Royals. But lately, you know, the last couple of years now, it's caught up to him a little bit, and that's got to be expected to some degree. Nobody stays as healthy as they did for 2 years and try to continue that, and unfortunately now some big injuries in some big spots.
1-2 on Bradley Zimmer. Rookie center fielder last week put an end to an 0 for 36. Two balls, 2 strikes.
Zimmer's an exciting guy. He is a pretty incredible athlete, one of the fastest runners in the big leagues. As you take a look at here at the fastball, and you see on our Fox tracks the back-to-back now high fastballs from Jason Hamill. But this guy's an exciting player, just 24 years old. First taste of the big leagues here in 2017.
Another chance for Escobar. Zimmer, a big man, can really run, and he makes it close on a routine ground ball to short. 2 down. Next Saturday, a major league doubleheader is on FS1. Yadier Molina and the Cardinals battle Buster Posey and the Giants in an all-out war for the plate. Cardinals Giants at 3:30 Eastern, followed by the Angels and the Rangers at 7 on FS1.
So who you taking in the war for the plate?
Whoa, I mean, that's I didn't realize that game was so big. I'm gonna have to tune in.
2 of the best, certainly, and those 2 guys. Probably, I mean, the rarity of seeing, I gotta believe, both of those guys probably never wear another uniform. That's kind of cool. That's certainly something that the game has gotten away from.
0-1 on Roberto Perez. Well, catchers like that are very hard to come by. The Royals have Salvador Perez. They locked him up long term early in his career. The Indians have Yan Gomes. They locked him up long term early in his career. Roberto Perez, this will show you what teams think about good catching. He technically is their backup catcher, and they gave him a long-term contract in the offseason. Hamill fooled him off speed. 3 strikeouts, 3 perfect innings for Hamill. That was a 10-pitch 3rd inning.
Well, don't ask me anything about baseball.
Big crowd here at Progressive Field. It might remind you of the mid-90s, mid to late 90s, when the Indians had a great run. And for Indians fans, can you believe it was 20 years ago when this 21-year-old Jared Wright.
I appreciate that.
Can you believe that it's been 20 years?
My shoulder believes it, just going like this, but no, it goes by too fast.
Oh man, we've been talking a lot about the recent success of the Indians and the Royals and going to the World Series, and there you were, a 21-year-old rookie, as Lorenzo Cain out into deep left center field, and it's Zimmer. That ball carried all the way to the wall, and Cain is 0 for 2. A 21-year-old rookie starting Game 7 of the World Series.
I thought it was always going to be like that.
Right. Every year, right?
It only got harder and harder. Yeah, it was, I mean, even coming back here, it was just a great time to be here, to be an Indian, and the fans and stuff. It was awesome.
It was sad for many years to come here and see this ballpark half empty, because I mean, this was the place to be for a long time, with the drums beating and the crowd stomping their feet, and we just showed you the 455 consecutive sellouts. I mean, that was unheard of at that time.
No, coming into the park every day and looking up at that number and knowing that was your consecutive sellouts was amazing. And then it was a rough loss for sure, and then watching that last year was just as hard. It was just as hard, but it's a great place to play. The fans are amazing, and I had a good time here.
Yeah, it really was fun. I mean, I was in Detroit for a lot of those years, and coming in here, this was always a great place to come play. And those years were great years, and it was kind of sad to see when they went in the other direction. I remember people start talking about, oh, Cleveland's not a great trip. I'm like, not a great trip. They have unbelievable fans. The atmosphere, and it's great here. Last night was sold out. Tonight sold out, so you get a little bit of a feel for what it used to be like. But the atmosphere here was always great. There are some good, diehard baseball fans. I think it's overlooked nationally in this city.
I think so too. Coming in here and seeing this place sold out like this, the memories it brings back, us playing against each other and stuff. We had a good time here.
Yeah.
It was a great place to play for sure.
Here's Eric Hosmer, and Clevenger's in with a strike. Hosmer hit a little tap out in front of the plate, and Perez threw him out.
What about pitching in this ballpark? There are a lot of people that say they don't like pitching. I was always pretty comfortable pitching. Yeah, the ball would fly out a little bit, but I mean, I guess you got to get comfortable in your own home ballpark. You're never going to say you didn't like pitching here, but were you comfortable? I mean, being objective, was this a comfortable place for you to pitch, take the fans out of it, just, the short left field porch?
It was for me. I think, like you said, being at home, you have to get comfortable sometime, but, sleeping in your own bed, getting your routine at your home ballpark, it just felt more comfortable. Knowing, the bullpen and what times you did stuff, it was definitely a good place for me to pitch.
Inside to Hosmer, 2 balls and 1 strike.
So what do you make of the hair revolution these days, man? Clevenger's a guy, they're all over the place, man, with the long hair. That's not to sound like we're that old, even though we are, right? We didn't see a ton of that, but this is kind of a new thing. Jacob deGrom, Clevenger. I mean, there's no shortage of guys with an unbelievable amount of hair. Any jealousy that they can grow like that about that? A little bit.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? I'm going to grow it out. There's just too much gray in it now. It'll look terrible.
This is more like your father's era with all the long hair and the beards.
We need those handlebar mustaches, the whole deal. But you heard him say 20 years ago, right?
It's brutal. It's so brutal. I don't even. It's the worst, which I'm sure you now experience, is when you see the guy that was born after you were drafted.
Yeah.
Like every former player kind of goes through these little phases, like first couple of times facing, I don't know if you ever went through this one, but facing like some kids of guys you play with. Like the first time I faced Prince Fielder, I was like, wait, what? As he was a teammate of mine at the beginning of the years. That's kind of step number one. Then you start seeing guys that were born after you debuted, and you're just thinking, this stinks.
We just had a funny moment out there. I was signing with Paul Osemacher, who was here and kind of took me under his wing when we were here. And lady came up to him and you know, I said, hey, can you sign this? And he signed it. She said, my grandpa's going to love it. And he looked up and was like, oh, no.
Those reminders.
Welcome to 2017.
That's it.
Gosh. You know, when you pitched, you were one of the harder throwers in the league. And now the line of guys who throw 94, 95, 96 is out the ballpark and around the corner.
Yes.
Could you have, either one of you guys, could you have imagined?
I might have gone in the 20th round. Looking around here.
Look at that young guy.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Striking out Paul Molitor.
Look at that young face, man.
Baby face.
Unbelievable.
No gray.
I know. In the good old days. Nothing hurt.
Another spot missed.
But you're right, though, right? I mean, definitely one of the harder throws, and it stuck out a lot more back then than it does now. Man, it is insane to see what these guys are doing.
The games I get to see and watching everybody throw high 90s. I mean, 95 is, you know, what 90 used to be. Maybe everybody's huge and they're throwing hard. It's cool to watch, especially the hair. Look at that thing.
What about what we're seeing here with these guys with the bigger swings? That's a big change as well, right? Guys are not scared to strike out. A lot of home runs, but no shame in the swing and miss, even with 2 strikes. That's a big change from what you remember.
Absolutely, yeah. The big swings I wasn't a huge fan of.
Hosmer drills that one to the gap, and Jay Bruce cuts it off. That'll keep Hosmer at first, but Melky Cabrera will go to third, and the Royals have runners at the corners with 1 out.
I'd always felt that when you were facing the big swingers, I was okay with that. If I made a mistake, right, they're going to get you.
Yes.
But you felt like you could expose those guys pretty well. But now it's crazy to think the guys don't care. Think about the top of your lineups when you were here in Cleveland, right? I mean, the different guys that were there, Vizquel, Alomar, Lofton, all different times. I mean, those guys were a pain because they were putting the ball in play, but you don't even see that at the top of the order anymore, hardly.
No, the guys that I look at the teams that I got to play on, you know, Vizquel, Matt Williams, Justice, Tomey, Manny, all these guys, it's just crazy. You know, they were contact hitters and power hitters, and it was fun to watch. The game, I don't get to watch a lot of baseball, but there's definitely some fun things going on and some different strategies for sure.
The home runs right now at the highest rate that we have ever seen, higher than even during that PED era. And, you know, 99, 2000, 2001 was not a fun time to be a pitcher at all. But these guys are hitting home runs at a higher rate than that. And as far as we know, they're passing all their tests, which is pretty unbelievable. It's kind of a scary thought, but batting averages are down and strikeouts are up.
I say we raise the mound and make the seams bigger.
Now you're talking. And especially, I think, for the pace, too, right? And people get so worked up at the hitters, you know, that they complain all the time. Oh, you're always worried about trying to make things, you know, better for the pitchers. But I say no, man. Have you ever heard of a ballpark that moves their fences back?
There we go.
They move them all in. Every time they keep moving them in. And I think that's part of what we're getting right now. And it's fun to watch guys hit home runs now that we're not throwing the baseball anymore. But you know, somebody's got to stick up for those guys that are out there.
Absolutely. We'll move the rubber closer, too, while we're at it. Make the plate bigger. What else can we put on the list?
There is plenty of opportunity for sure.
Salvador Perez wanted to know if he swung at a strike. Batting with Cabrera at third, Hosmer at first, and 1 out. That ball is foul. It's 2-2. Well, we have a couple of teams here in the hunt in the Central Division. Jared, I want to ask you about the Minnesota Twins. One of your former teammates is still pitching, and pitching well. Bartolo Colon was the winning pitcher in Toronto last night.
No way.
That'll make you feel a little worse, won't it?
It just blows my mind. When I saw him hit a home run, what was that, last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, a year or two ago.
He hit a home run. I fell out of my chair.
You talk about a guy making you feel bad. 44 years old.
Oh, my gosh. The funny part is nobody knows, and I mean, people probably do, but coming up through the minors and stuff, he was shredded. He was 200-something pounds of pure muscle, throwing 180.
So you're saying he's not in that kind of shape right now? It's hard to tell with the uniform on, man.
He used to tell me he didn't like to fly, so comfort food is what he called it. We would pitch back-to-back in the minors, struck out 20 and walked 21.
I remember. I don't know if you were in Buffalo that year. Were you in Buffalo the year he threw the no-hitter?
Yeah.
He threw a no-hitter.
Yes.
Was it 97? Does that sound right? So I was in New Orleans at the time, and he threw it. It was against us, and it was the first game of a doubleheader. I can't remember both of you guys pitched that day or not.
We did, because I was charting that game, or doing the radar gun, I think, in the first game, because it was. I think it might have been 7 innings.
Yep, 7-inning no-hitter that he threw that day. But an unbelievable character.
Want to know on Mike Moustakas.
So what do you got going on? You're here for, they do alumni weekends here, right? These days, it seems like the Cleveland Indians do a pretty nice job with their alumni stuff. Some organizations better than others.
These guys are amazing. They, you know, from fantasy camp to bring in, you know, old players in to hang out and be part of the festivities here and keeping our names fresh out there.
Fans love that stuff.
Yeah, and we love it. I love coming back, because once you're out, it's weird unless you're a broadcaster or something or a coach. Once you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
You know, it feels, you know, you're on the outside, so I enjoy coming back.
Now, as far as those fantasy camp goes, any competitive juices start to crank back up a little bit?
So
knock an old dude down once in a while?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. But it only happened 1 year, and I was so sore. I said, I'll never do that again.
You can go back as an outfielder or something, right? Just hit a little bit, but forget about pitching.
I was always a good hitter.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
I'm sure. I believe you. You just told me.
Yeah.
You know, you brought up Bartolo Colon, and we were talking about how hard guys throw today and how common it is to see someone who throws 95, 96, 97. What I remember about a young Bartolo Colon is that he would be throwing harder later in the game than he did earlier in the game. There's very few guys who can do that today. I mean, it's more of kind of a flame out after 5-6 innings, because that's the way they're trained these days.
Yeah, Bartolo had another gear. Another couple gears, actually. I mean, he would, if he got in trouble, he could crank it up, and then towards the end of the game, if he needed to finish it, he could flip it into a different gear. So that was fun to watch.
Verlander for a little while was one of those guys, right? The velocity would kind of get better as he went, which is always amazing when you see a guy do that. But you mentioned, you know, the changes, everybody goes through it. What do you think you missed the most? Some people talk about the competition, the camaraderie. What sticks out to you, maybe what you miss from playing the game?
I miss the competition for sure.
Yeah.
I think towards the end of my career, being hurt and stuff like that, it's no fun getting your, you know, fanny kicked all over the place being hurt. But I definitely miss the competition. I like to fill that void every day.
Just beating your kids in basketball in the driveway, that kind of stuff.
Oh, just dunking on them like nobody's. My 10-year-old gets mad. I say, "Get that out of here."
I love the John Smoltz line. You know, one of the most competitive guys who probably ever played the game. Said, my dad never let me beat him in anything. I'm in on that.
Absolutely.
I'm in on beating up on my kids until they figure it out.
You got to give them something to shoot for.
Because it's going to come back sooner or later, man. They're going to be able to burn you. They're going to fake you out. They're going to leave you laying on the driveway floor while they're driving to the basket. It's coming.
When they're 10 and 12, it's okay. I only have so long before they're going to be wearing me out, so I'm going to take advantage of it.
Now, has the thought ever crossed your mind about coaching or wanting to get into this pretty tough road? These guys work pretty hard these days.
Yes, it is, and it's a lot of time. And I'm a Southern California guy, so I'm at the beach a lot. So summers at home, it's tough to give those up, but we'll see when the kids get a little bit older. I got 4 of them, so we're pretty busy.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That was the 25th pitch of the inning for Mike Clevenger, and now the crowd is trying to get behind him. The Royals had 1 base runner in the first 3 innings, and now they have 3 in the 4th. 1 and 2 and 2 outs on Escobar. Two and 2.
Yeah, the other option, put a little makeup on you, dude. Just slide in right here. I mean, can't be afraid to slap on some makeup.
With a tan like that, he doesn't need any makeup.
I need makeup?
No, I didn't say you need it, but, you know, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, this is, I could get used to this. Scoot over a little bit. Let me
just push me over right to the next booth. I'm sure Indians fans would be thrilled.
Got him to pop it up. Ramirez out, and he's got it on the run. Jared, thanks for dropping by.
Guys, thank you.
Appreciate your
Pleasure.
time.
Great to see you, brother, as always.
Escobar to pop out to second with the bases loaded, so no score as the Indians come up in the bottom of the 4th inning. And Jason Hamill has faced 9 and retired 9, and now the Indians begin their second time through with Francisco Lindor.
Hamill has looked sharp, probably hoping that he was going to get a little bit of run support in that last inning, but Mike Clevenger did a nice job pitching around trouble, making the pitches when he had to.
One ball, one strike. Colorful shoelaces for Mr. Smile.
They make those socks in the traditional stirrups, as well as a lot of guys like wearing that whole sock now. That's a pretty cool look as well from Lindor.
Kane and Gordon back in left center field, and Alex Gordon makes the play, bumping into the wall, and Lindor has flied out to Gordon twice tonight.
He made that look easy, didn't he? And that ball had some carry on it. There's been a power outburst this year for Francisco Lindor. He gave that one a ride. Off the bat, I didn't think it was going to be close to the wall, but I'm going to watch Alex Gordon looking for Lorenzo Cain, and he makes a nice play.
One out to the veteran Austin Jackson, who's been a big surprise for the Indians this year, and we've been talking about injuries to both clubs. The Indians have had Michael Brantley on the disabled list twice with an ankle injury. He's out right now. Abraham Almonte on the disabled list, and Austin Jackson was signed to be a 4th outfielder, a fill in here and there, and he's become an everyday player.
And he's done a great job for them too. You see what he's done over his last 32, 342 batting average at 3 home runs. He's driven in 20 during that time. But Terry Francona has talked about how important he has been. You know, injuries, trying to protect against it. Then when you go out and you bring somebody else in, you're not sure. You're going to kind of take a flyer sometimes on a veteran. Well, he's been exceptional and really kind of saved the day. That's the way Terry Francona kind of described it.
Lonnie Chisenhall, another one of Terry Francona's outfielders on the disabled list. Another strikeout with a breaking ball for Hamill. He has struck out 4. Let's get a game break from Los Angeles, and here's Mike Hill.
For the Indians, now hitting second baseman, Jose Ramirez.
All right, thank you, Mike. Chicago Cubs with a 3-game lead in the Central Division going into today.
It's a nice bright spot for the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, they are in a complete rebuild, but you look at what Hoskins has done. Of course, you always wonder, will that kind of thing stick? But he's got some good power numbers in the minor leagues as well, the big leagues, and those pitchers just learning him. But they're taking a while to adjust. It's been impressive to see him show off the power. I'm sure Philly fans are pretty excited what they have seen so far.
And don't you think the gap between the major leagues and AAA just gets wider and wider? What happens in AAA doesn't necessarily translate in the big leagues like it used to.
No doubt, and that has a lot to do with the way that player development is treated, as we see Jose Ramirez lose his bat and throw it all the way to the net. Now he's going to go get it himself. You don't see that too often either. So that bat just come flying out of his hand straight back to the screen. But what's changed at the minor league level is that organizations generally are getting away from having older players. A lot of times you'd stockpile 4 or 5 minor league free agents, guys in their 30s with some big league service time. You want to have those guys in case of emergency. Well, the player development system has changed a lot, where there's younger players getting pushed harder, getting pushed faster, because teams know those prime years are so important and want to get to them earlier. And so because of that, I think the level of AAA has changed to some degree as well. I think you're seeing less experience at that level. So if you get a hitter or a pitcher who dominates, you can't necessarily expect him to do that when he gets in the big leagues, because that gap has gotten so big.
2-2 on Ramirez. That breaking ball hung, but it also hangs in the air for Melky Cabrera. And Jason Hamill has opened tonight with 4 perfect innings. No score to the top of the 5th inning. Cheslor Cuthbert leads off an inning for the 2nd time tonight. He lined to center against Clevenger in the 3rd inning. Royals have no runs, 2 hits. The Indians have no runs, no hits, no base runners. Out in front of a slider, no balls and 2 strikes.
This is somewhat of an important inning, I think, here for Mike Clevenger after the long one in which he threw 27 pitches in the 4th, even though he didn't allow any runs. I think Terry Francona would feel a lot better if he get right back on track, and he does with a 3-pitch strikeout of Cuthbert.
And Clevenger has 6. Now look at the injury update for the Cleveland Indians. More significant than the Royals, with Almonte, Brantley, Chisenhall, 3 outfielders on the DL. Jason Kipnis on the DL for the 3rd time this year. And then on the mound, well, you just begin with Andrew Miller, and what a hole that leaves behind in their bullpen.
There's not one guy on that board who isn't important to this team. When you look at all those guys, all 7 of them, especially when you look at those pitchers. Andrew Miller, of course, I think we've talked about him a lot ever since he came over here, what he's meant to the Cleveland Indians. The 2nd most pitches ever in a World Series last year, behind Aroldis Chapman, who threw the most ever in a World Series last year. He is feeling the effects of that. You see Josh Tomlin there, Salazar. But these are impact arms and bats that are not available right now to Terry Francona.
1-2 on Alex Gordon. Not identical, but similar to last year. Remember, there were some significant injuries to their pitching staff. Carlos Carrasco took a line drive from Ian Kinsler.
We were calling that game. It was an FS1 game or Big Fox. I can't remember. It was the first pitch of the game or within the first few pitches. That was a big one.
Clevenger has struck out 7.
Well, he has looked sharp, and the command has been very good. You see him paying the fastball there, the breaking ball with the good depth. That fastball right there was after a really good changeup. Whit Merrifield didn't like that one. That slider backed up a little bit, but Mike Clevenger, he said the 4th inning was a long one with 27 pitches, a couple of base hits, and a walk. But other than that, he has been locked in. As you see that strikeout total now at 7 through 4 2/3.
He's 0-1 with Whit Merrifield, who has popped out to 3rd and struck out looking. Trying to bunt, and that's a tough pitch to bunt. A fastball riding up and in, and it's 0-2.
Toughest pitch in baseball to bunt. You're always taught in the situations to elevate a fastball if you see a guy. Now, they were doing this anyway. If you see a guy squaring, especially in a squeeze situation, to elevate the ball, no matter what you were planning on doing, try to elevate it. And when you're bunting, you're always taught start your bat at the top of the zone, never go up to get it, right? Because to try to put your bat up and get on top of a ball and bunt it down is extremely, extremely difficult.
Going to try and go upstairs again, and it's too high, 1-2.
So unfortunately for Whit Merrifield, just kind of bad luck as far as the pitch that he decided to try to bunt on and just wasn't able to pull back in time.
Fastball away is just outside, 2-2.
I'll tell you, watching Mike Clevenger and the reaction to some of these fastballs, that might have said 92 miles an hour. There's no doubt in my mind that it looks harder than that. We saw Salvador Perez take a fastball as the guy loves to swing. You see the way Merrifield looked at that one. The ball really jumps out of his hand. I don't know if it's the arm angle against the righties, or we talk about spin rate a lot with certain guys. You spin it more than others, that ball's going to have a little bit more ride to it. But the radar gun certainly does not tell the entire story of the Mike Clevenger fastball.
Back through the middle. Lindor gets it in shallow center and then couldn't find the grip. And Merrifield is on with 2 down.
As they're watching this play develop, it looked like it was going to be a pretty amazing play from Francisco Lindor. You just expect it from him because the defense is so good, but the exchange was the issue there. Could not get it out of his glove cleanly, did not have a good grip on the baseball, almost tried to throw it before he completely had it in his hand.
So a runner at first with 2 down, and now close. Clevenger showing off some quick footwork and almost got Merrifield at first.
They certainly got to keep an eye on Whit Merrifield. 25 bases stolen for him out of 27. A good pickoff move and a good throw as well.
Fouled away by Lorenzo Cain. He is struck out and fly to the warning track in center field. Batting at .289 overall, but closer to .370 over the last month.
I joke around with guys sometimes when they do well toward the end of the year, whether you're a free agent or you're headed to arbitration, that you're going on the salary drive. Well, right now, not that that's Lorenzo Cain's intent, and he's making a nice push as he gets ready to head into free agency as well.
And it's easy to, label someone as being selfish if they're on a so-called salary drive, but when numbers reflect how much you're going to get paid, you can't blame a guy for
and we
digging a little deeper in a year like this.
No doubt, but it's not to say that we think he wasn't trying earlier in the season. With a lot of those guys, there's just some collective struggles, unfortunately, for the Royals early on in the season. There's another really good fastball. You see that? I mean, perfectly located, and you see Lorenzo Cain. There's some frustration. That ball is jumping on these hitters right now.
Perez really took a while to think about what he wanted to give to Clevenger for a sign. It's outside, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
One of the things that Terry Francona was telling us, which makes a lot of sense, and I was reading an article about Roberto Perez. He's talking about when he catches Mike Clevenger, you got to know your guys that can hit spots really well and which ones maybe have a little bit of an issue. The walk rate very high for Clevenger this year, 4.9. So Roberto Perez actually will sit on the plate a lot more, knowing that he misses on the corners. You see him there, set up right over the middle of the plate. As you see the throw over there. Now, when you have guys that have excellent command, you're catching, Greg Maddux type, Eddie Perez could sit on the corner. He could sit a couple of inches off. When you have a guy maybe where the command is not that great, and really, how many guys really have that kind of command? It's a really good idea that a catcher sits on the plate a little bit more. Roberto Perez does that when he's catching Mike Clevenger.
Cain out into center field, and again Zimmer racing toward the track and makes an unbelievable catch. The Indians center fielder rips off the Royals center fielder with one of the best catches of 2017. Machine. And he made one of the best plays on defense, at least that I've seen all year, against the Royals. Lorenzo Cain, and that saved a run, and it's still no score to the bottom of the 5th inning.
That was impressive to watch. We were just talking about him a little bit earlier, what a great athlete he is. One of the fastest runners in the big leagues, and he really showed off the speed and the glove on that play.
Not a lot of foul ground here in Cleveland, and that's back into the 5th row. 1 ball and 1 strike on Encarnacion, a rookie center fielder. Bradley Zimmer, a former 2nd-round pick of the Indians, whose brother Kyle Zimmer is in the Royals minor league system. He was a former 1st-round pick. Big curveball hangs a little bit high. 2-1 on Encarnacion. He struck out swinging in the 2nd inning. Jason Hammel has set down the first 12 Indians tonight. Two and 2. Encarnacion, Bruce, and Santana coming up. In the air to shallow right field. And Melky Cabrera brings it down, and 13 consecutive hitters for Jason Hammel. He has yet to go to a 3-ball count. Grip the Moment, sponsored by Falcon Tires, the official tire of Major League Baseball.
Well, I mean, listen, it's a good idea to go ahead and just mark it now, because nobody is going to make a better play in this game than what we just saw from Bradley Zimmer, and in a huge spot. This is a tight contest. Both starters pitching really well. That definitely would have scored at least a run. Lorenzo Cain maybe not as appreciative as the rest of everybody else in this ballpark and watching this game, but that was an incredible play by Bradley Zimmer. And what makes his speed, I think, and his athleticism and the way that he moves even more unique is the fact that he's 6'5". He's not a little guy that flies, right? More often than not, the guys that we see that can run like that are not very big. He's a big dude.
1-1 on Jay Bruce. Well, in his first at bat in the 3rd inning, Zimmer hit a routine ground ball to short and almost beat it out. Again, something you don't expect from someone who's 6'5". Well, let's see what kind of strike zone Jay Bruce gets this time around against Jason Hammel. And it's called a strike. Almost the exact same pitch, and this is why Bruce is so upset. Almost that exact same pitch was called a strike to ring up Jay Bruce in the 2nd inning, and he got into it with the home plate umpire.
And I don't mean to laugh, but just because you asked me at the time, well, do you think it had any effect? Well, obviously it did not. That umpire, DJ Rayburn, said, no, that was a strike then, and it is a strike now. And that's good on an umpire. Just stick to your guns, right? I mean, I do think there are certain guys that you maybe, so you can push around, but you can try to influence and say the right things. As you see Jason Hammel just being unbelievably efficient and consistent so far with his pitches per inning in this game.
And that is his first 3-ball count. It comes against the 14th hitter he's faced tonight. That curveball's lifted to center field. Cain with his right hand calls off Alex Gordon. 2 down.
So we talk about depth, right? We mentioned it a lot here with the Indians. Well, what kind of depth do you have with your center field defense? How about this catch that Austin Jackson made in Boston? Now that was not that long ago. It was August 1st. And to get this kind of defense out of 2 different center fielders, I got to tell you what, because it's fun to say, well, which one was the better catch? I think I'm going to have to give that one to Austin Jackson. There's guys that will get up against the wall, and it seems like, and I understand, people get excited if you save any home run. If you're out there deep enough and it's barely over the wall, it's not that hard. Shagged a lot of balls in the outfield, but he was fully extended and all the way up.
15 up and 15 down for the Indians against Jason Hammel. MLB on FS1 is sponsored by the Hartford. When the unexpected strikes, the Hartford strikes back with small business insurance. No score to the top of the 6th inning. And our Budweiser game summary. A pitching duel between Jason Hammel and Mike Clevenger, with Hammel turning in 5 perfect innings. Clevenger has given up 3 hits. He got around the bases loaded in the 4th inning and got one of the best defensive plays from anybody in the big leagues this year, when Bradley Zimmer took an RBI away from Lorenzo Cain in the 5th inning. And now Melky Cabrera goes back through the middle, and he is 2 for 3 with a leadoff single.
It wasn't hit very hard, but Melky Cabrera will take it, as it is a perfectly located ground ball up the middle. We'll take a look at this pitch, and you'll see a good fastball in with good life and jam Melky, but not enough, as he's able to get this ball through a very good middle of the infield. Jose Ramirez there at second did not have a chance. You see that look there, even from Melky Cabrera, basically talking about that pitch, the movement on it.
It's the first time the Royals have had their leadoff man on. Cabrera started to run and then hit the brakes, and Hosmer takes strike 1. Hosmer is 1 for 2 with a single to right center field. He has now reached base safely in 20 consecutive games. That's the 2nd longest current streak in the major leagues.
You see Clevenger just threw his 90th pitch. He's gone up over 100 a couple of times, but maybe an ideal time for him to try to get that ground ball and get the double play. It has been an issue for the Kansas City Royals as far as grounding into double plays. Eric Hosmer, 17 of his own this year, but look at the Royals as a club. That is the 2nd most in Major League Baseball. 120 double plays that they have grounded into this season.
Craig Breslow, the veteran left-hander who just rejoined the Indians. He's also spent some time with the Minnesota Twins this year. Indians have a couple of lefties on the disabled list. We talked about Andrew Miller, and then Boone Logan, who was somewhat overlooked as an acquisition by Cleveland during the offseason, a left-hand specialist. He is also out, so Terry Francona was down to 1 lefty.
And he said Olsen has done a really nice job, the one lefty that was in that bullpen. They were worried about wearing him out a little bit, giving him too much of a workload, and so they'll give 37-year-old Craig Breslow a look. And what's been kind of funny for me, at least, and I find maybe not funny things funny, but you can tell the guys that were late ads here to the Players Weekend because they just have their full last name on the back of their jersey. Craig Breslow was one of those guys, and he'll take it. He's certainly happy to put a big league uniform back on again, but there's a little prep if you want to be the milkman. If you want to be Mr. Smile, if you're a late addition, a late call-up, you're just going to get your last name. Although that doesn't really excuse Jose Ramirez, if I'm not mistaken, as Ramirez on the back of his jersey.
Which is a heck of a nickname. 2-2 on Hosmer.
Maybe you didn't feel like filling out the questionnaire when they sent it around. I'm good.
And there it is. Well, if you play any professional sport around grown men, you're going to get a nickname whether you like it or not. So maybe he has a nickname that he doesn't like.
Doesn't want to share it with the world, or might not be safe for a big league field and big league broadcast. You run into that a little bit in the clubhouses as well.
Great spot. There is absolutely nothing Eric Hosmer could have done with that pitch. And Clevenger has struck out 8 in 5 1/3 innings.
Well, he really has been spotting this fastball up well, and as frustrated as Eric Hosmer is, and you get it. You know, change-up grip right there. Excuse me, change-up. A little pop on the glove. 86 miles an hour, but he swings at that pitch, he's probably hitting a ground ball because of how well it's located. And even though the idea of striking out looking not what Eric Hosmer wants to do, that might have been 2 outs if he put that ball in play.
Salvador Perez swings and misses at a breaking ball away. He is struck out twice. Once looking at a fastball that was down the middle, and then a swinging strikeout in the 4th, playing with a painful muscle on his right side. And every swing costs him something. That's below the knees. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, and you can appreciate Salvador Perez trying to play through that pain. Those things you think about, that those strains up there in that area, and always kind of there, and you worry about tweaking it and making it worse, but he's been allowed to try to play through it. But you can see it at times. He'll take that big hack, and he is not a guy that cuts down on a swing, as you see him there. Seems a little bit risky, I think, probably, but at the same time, this is a guy who's very difficult to keep off the field.
He missed 15 games when he was on the disabled list. The Royals went 6-9 while he was out. Two and two.
With Breslow up, you do wonder how long Terry Francona will go with his right-handed starter Clevenger. I mentioned he's gone over the 100 pitch mark 5 times this season. You see him now at 98, getting ready to throw his 99th pitch. 108 is his season high. That was all the way back in May, though, the 31st against the Oakland A's.
That was painful for Perez. So is striking out for a 3rd time against Clevenger, and he has 9.
What a pitch. And you're watching Mike Clevenger right now just be absolutely locked in. This is now the 3rd time this season, but look at the rotation overall. Now, not everybody active. We talked about that with this rotation here in Cleveland, but among American League starters with at least 15 starts, they have 5 starters in the top 11, and they're all better than 10 strikeouts per 9. That is incredible. A lot of swing and miss in this rotation in Cleveland.
Runner at first, 2 down for Mike Moustakas. Now he has walked twice, and he takes high for ball 1. Those are the only 2 walks allowed by Clevenger, who has only had 1 long inning. That was that 27 pitch 4th when he worked around 2 singles and a walk.
9 strikeouts, I mentioned, 3rd time he has done it this year. That is also his career best. He's never struck out 10.
1-1. Belted into the right field corner and foul. And it's 1-2.
A little bit of an XL there for Mike Clevenger and Roberto Perez as you see him coming in out. He wants to talk to Mike Clevenger about maybe what they want to do here and that pitch. Change up right down the middle of the plate, and you see Clevenger watching it, and once he realized that ball was going foul, a little bit relieved, but now the question becomes in the 1-2 count for Roberto Perez and Mike Clevenger where they want to go as far as execution, location, what kind of pitch. They are way ahead in the count here. 1-2.
Still 1-2.
The fastball up is what Roberto Perez wanted there, and he's done an excellent job here with Mike Clevenger. I mean, ultimately your pitchers have to come through and make pitches, but Roberto Perez, who really kind of burst on the scene last year when he started getting more opportunities with Yan Gomes down, has really proven to be a very excellent defensive catcher.
Going to try and get him with a slider. Got a pop up Clevenger wanted it, and Perez has the ball pop out of his glove.
Well, that unfortunately is an error for Roberto Perez, and one that was due to the shift. You're going to see, yeah, Mike Clevenger wanted to get in there, but you let your catcher take it. And it's the angle in which Roberto Perez had to go get that. As I was just bragging on him for being such a great defensive catcher. This is a tough play. Now, Diaz is playing in the shortstop position right now because of the shift on Moustakas, and not even short, but short up the middle. So that is a long, long run. So Roberto Perez or Mike Clevenger are really the only two guys that have a chance at that ball, and unfortunately Perez could not come up with it.
So Moustakas lives to see another pitch. They're going to try and get him with a pitch up. And does Perez get another shot at it? No, he will run out of room. It's interesting, rather than letting the ball settle into his glove at the last moment, almost like Perez went up to get it and created a collision with the baseball.
Yeah, he was on the move. I think that was part of it as well. And as you see Diaz there, he is so far away from the ball. He is the third baseman, and he's at the shortstop position right now. Look how far away he is from where that play took place.
Past Santana, but Ramirez is in shallow right field, and the Indians still get the out. So a leadoff single, but no runs for the Royals in the 6th. Starts, his ERA was almost 7, but tonight he has turned in 6 scoreless innings, and he has struck out a career high 9 hitters. On the other side, the Cleveland Indians don't have a base runner yet against Jason Hamill. He has faced 15 and retired 15.
Really, Jarrett Wright in the booth earlier, and he and I were talking about ways that we could make the game better for pitchers, but that's kind of a hard case to make right now when you're watching this game and 2 guys go at it.
And now Hamill gets a one-hopper from Diaz. Hamill had never gone more than 4 perfect innings before tonight.
Let's take a look at the breaking ball here from Jason Hamill. It has been very good, and if you're going to have Hammer on the back of your jersey, you might as well go ahead and break out the good curveball tonight. And Jason Hamill has done exactly that. And you know, you adjust to the lineup and you adjust to the guys that you're going up against. And Jason Hamill, as we mentioned, coming into this game, only threw his curveball 9% of the time. You say, well, how come we're seeing so many curveballs there in that reel? Well, because he's used it almost a quarter of the time tonight, 22%. And so for Jason Hamill, first of all, the curveball has to be feeling good, and you also have to know those opposing hitters. He must have known that the Indians would struggle against his good curveball, and they have tonight.
1-0 on Bradley Zimmer. 2 balls and no strikes. And let's face it, if you're going to put Hammer on the back of your jersey, you better throw some curveballs.
It's almost like you have to. I mean, you can't send on an occasional curveball. By the way, those lids are sweet. I'm digging those Kansas City Royals Players Weekend hats.
A powder blue, which the Royals used in the 70s and the 80s as one of their road uniforms, as did many other major league teams. Eric Hosmer is always working on his glove in between pitches, making sure those strings are tight.
I mean, that can't taste good, right? I mean, especially since it's that same piece of leather that you've been chewing on all year. It's kind of gross.
Two and 2 on Zimmer. His biggest contribution tonight is saving a run with a runner at first base and 2 down. Back in the 5th inning, he took an RBI away from Lorenzo Cain with a great diving catch, not in, not to his left, not to his right, diving back into deep center field.
It was a great play, probably second greatest play they've seen in center field from an Indians player this year. We showed you that Austin Jackson catch that he made in Boston.
And that is the first base runner for the Indians. It comes with 1 out in the 6th inning.
Jason Hamill has been great here so far tonight, but you see the slider who's actually trying to go in, left it away, and Zimmer does a nice job staying in the middle of the field. That hard ground ball that gets past Escobar, nothing he could do. And like you mentioned, for the first time tonight, the Cleveland Indians have a base runner here in the bottom of the 6th.
Here's Roberto Perez. He struck out on a slider in the 3rd inning. Breaking ball for a strike. Now, CJ, I was always taught that the deeper a pitcher goes into the game throwing a perfect game, when a base runner reaches, it's a tough adjustment for the pitcher because he has to go to the stretch for the first time all night. But that doesn't apply to Jason Hamill. That's how he pitches, with nobody on, or with, in this case, a runner at first base.
Yeah, and that is new for Jason Hamill this year. But everything is out of the stretch from pitch 1 of the game, and so you're right. There is no adjustment to be made. There is no different feeling for him. But he's got another deal that he has to worry about, and that's Bradley Zimmer taking off. He has done an excellent job. 15 of 16 in stolen bases this year. I love working these numbers, and you look at them and say, well, Jason Hamill has also struggled. 16 stolen bases against him this year out of 19 attempts. We've got Salvador Perez back there, who's pretty good at throwing out runners. 11 for 38, 23%. So we'll see what happens here, but you know that everybody is thinking about it and wondering when Bradley Zimmer will go, because it has been an issue for Jason Hamill this year, and that guy over at first base can run.
He is getting ready to throw his 68th pitch, and there's 1 out in the 6th inning. Zimmer is not running, and Perez lifts it into deep left center field, and off the very top of the wall. He missed a home run, or did he get a home run? Now they're going to say it did clear the wall, and Roberto Perez gets a 2-run home run, and Cleveland takes a 2-0 lead. The Royals are going to take another look at it, but for now, Cleveland leads 2-0.
Well, if it stands, it'll be number 3 for Roberto Perez when it's all said and done. And this pitch did not miss its location by very much. But Perez getting that head out early, and that does appear to have hit that railing up there. So it will indeed count as a home run. And the perfect game, the no-hitter, and now the shutout, all gone within a matter of just a few pitches here for Jason Hammel.
And now the Indians begin their 3rd time through, and Francisco Lindor, who has flied to left twice. That is just the 3rd home run for Roberto Perez all year, but they've all been meaningful. 2 have given the Indians a lead, and the other one tied the game. And now base hit left field for Lindor. So Hammel retired the first 16 Indians, and now the last 3 have reached.
Dave Island will go out and talk to his starter, but let's take a look here at the base hit from Lindor. Two-seam fastball, not badly located at all. It was down, but look at Lindor, how he keeps his head down the entire time, swinging from the right side, where he's hit just .246 this year. That was an excellent swing, and this has always been an issue when you look at this for Jason Hammel. Very respectable numbers the first couple of times through the order. Well, that was the 3rd at bat for Francisco Lindor, and the numbers jump up significantly, just over 100 points. 338 for opposing hitters the 3rd time they were facing Jason Hammel in a game.
Now keeping a close eye on Francisco Lindor. He has stolen 10 this year as they begin to stir around in the Royals bullpen. Jackson hits it hard but foul up the left field line.
Let's see one here. This one sits over the middle of the plate. Salvador Perez wanted it away. So you wonder about the fatigue factor, not because of the pitch count. The pitch count is great at 71. Jason Hammel out there now in this 6th inning. And the Indians have gotten to him, and it looks like maybe a little bit of fatigue as he is missing some location.
Line to center field. Kane is there. 2 outs. Commemorate this inaugural Players Weekend at MLBshop.com with limited edition jerseys and tees featuring player pick nicknames. Wear the gear the players are wearing on field this weekend. Available while supplies last at MLBshop.com. So in addition to the nicknames, each of the players has a patch where they're able to pay tribute to friends or family. The most popular one that I've seen this weekend has been simply Mom and Dad.
Yep, they are the ones that have been so supportive for so many of these guys over the course of their career, going all the way back to those T-ball days. Thank you, Mom. And certainly all moms deserve to be thanked, whether their sons made it to the big leagues or not.
And now Ramirez into right field, and Melky Cabrera will bring it down and end the inning. The Indians get 2 on the home run from Perez. MLB on FS1 is sponsored by Falcon Tires, the official tire of Major League Baseball. Roberto Perez, who had a 195 batting average and just 2 home runs when the game started, has hit a 2-run home run to give the Indians a 2-0 lead. And now Terry Francona turns the game over to his bullpen, and Brian Shaw will get the top of the 7th.
This is a lot of fun for Terry Francona when he can turn the game over to his pen, because it is a good one, a very good bullpen. You see Brian Shaw, the role that he has played here, so important. Good versus lefties and righties. 234 against lefties, 257 against the righties.
And Giovanni Urshela is a defensive upgrade at third, and for Yandy Diaz. Escobar, one hop, sharply hit to Ramirez, and there's one away. Escobar is 0 for 3. An NFL doubleheader kicks off tomorrow on Fox. It all starts at 1 Eastern as the Bears battle the Titans, and then the Bengals face off and take on the Redskins at 4 Eastern. An NFL doubleheader tomorrow on Fox. Chesler Cuthbert with 1 out. 0-1.
Well, you see the geek there, Brian Shaw. That's who he calls himself, so I don't feel bad calling him that. But interesting guy with his repertoire. Saw that pitch at 94 miles an hour. That is a cutter that he throws, and that is what he predominantly throws. Nearly 90% of the time he throws a slider as well, but the velocity that he gets on that natural cutter is pretty impressive. There's the slider. Nothing straight, no 4-seam fastball for Brian Shaw. Everything moving, but moving the same way. The cutter away from righties and the slider as well, just about 12 miles an hour slower.
There's that cutter, and now the most famous cutter in at least recent Major League history would be Mariano Rivera, and he and Shaw have something in common in that they discovered that pitch accidentally, just playing catch in the outfield, messing around with grips. He gets his first strikeout, and Indians pitchers have struck out 10 Royals tonight, 2 down in the 7th inning. You know, sometimes you think there's more science behind it, but a lot of times it's just messing around with grips.
Yep, you can see the 4-seam grip there and the way that that ball comes off. For a lot of guys that throw the cutter, finger pressure is a big part of what they do. But isn't it amazing when you see a guy who has such a dominant pitch like Mariano Rivera did with his cutter, Brian Shaw, and it was discovered kind of by accident? It is the same thing for Zach Britton's sinker. And he was trying to learn a cutter. He was using this kind of goofy change-up grip when he was in the minor leagues. Calvin Medora was his pitching coach back then when he was with the Baltimore Orioles in A-ball. And he ends up messing around with this thing, and it's just sinking. And Medora said, you know what? Whatever, just leave it. Whatever you're doing, do it. And it's one of the most dominant pitches you'll see in the game. A pitch that he throws 90% of the time, and he's a dominant closer. So it is pretty incredible how some of these guys arrive at a dominant pitch against the best hitters in the world.
And what works for one guy doesn't work for the other guy. I mean, how many people do you think went up to Mariano Rivera over the years and say, hey, how do you throw that pitch?
Yeah,
how do you grip it?
I sat in that bullpen for a couple of months, and you absolutely asked, because everybody wanted to be Mariano Rivera. But David Robertson was a guy who learned it from him. Phil Hughes, other guys that put on that Yankee uniform. But you're absolutely right. You can do everything that he tells you to do. It does not mean you're going to get that same cut on the pitch. It's just one of those things where it's just not that simple to say, okay, you know, it's not X's and O's. You do this, throw it this way, this grip, and you'll get the same result. You won't. That's what's so unique about our game.
Alex Gordon fouls it off of his ankle.
Now, when we talk cutter, I love doing this just to kind of get people riled up a little bit. Mariano Rivera, for sure, had one of the best cutters we've ever seen. But Kenley Jansen's cutter, significantly more strikeouts. Now, Mariano Rivera is the best closer I think we have ever seen, and maybe we'll ever see. But Kenley Jansen actually had a little bit of a better, and does have a little bit of a better cutter. I'll go check my Twitter mentions. I'm sure there'll be a couple of Yankee fans in there.
Good luck with New York. Broken bat, Santana to Shaw, and that's the inning. And now the Kansas City Royals have been scoreless for 23 straight innings. And he was on his way to a 4th with 5 perfect innings. He gave up a 2-run home run in the 6th, and now he gives up a solo home run in the 7th. Edwin Encarnacion hits his 30th of the year, and the Indians take a 3-0 lead.
Encarnacion was a really nice signing for the Cleveland Indians in the offseason, and the kind of signing that you don't see too often in this market. But he gets himself a fastball down the middle, and he absolutely crushes that baseball. But through May 20th of this year, he was hitting 199. We always talk about guys with the new contract, and is there pressure, and was it a mistake, and maybe some regret. Well, since then, coming into tonight, hitting 271, 392 on base percentage, and now 23 home runs for him since the end of May. He has really been paying off here in Cleveland.
He is the only current player with 6 consecutive 30 home run seasons. Going 2 on Jay Bruce. He has struck out and flied to center against Hamill.
As much as there's been a lot of talk surrounding the Astros in the year they're having, and there should be, even though they're struggling a little bit after the break, and they're a good team, they're a deep team, they can slug with anybody. One of the best in baseball when it comes to home runs. They've been kind of a neck and neck with the Rangers, actually, who are kind of 1 and 2 as far as total home runs. Think about the Red Sox, a really good team, but the Cleveland Indians, with the additions that they have here now, they get completely healthy, and Andrew Miller is a huge part of that. They need him to be Andrew Miller, I think, to have another run in them, but they're absolutely a team that, if healthy, has another shot to get to the World Series and go deep.
Merrifield has to run in from right, and he gets Jay Bruce. Well, we just showed you Ned Yost, and there's a connection between these two teams, and this gets back to your point, CJ. In 2014, the Royals surprised baseball, and they ended up in Game 7 of the World Series, losing at home. Last year, the Cleveland Indians surprised baseball and went to Game 7 of the World Series, and they lost at home. The Royals used that for fuel all throughout 2015, and they won the World Series. And you know that Cleveland is running on the same fuel this year to come that close at home, and to make it even more painful, they had a 3-1 lead over the Cubs coming back to Cleveland, and that's something a team never forgets and never gets over.
And they did it without 2 big pieces in the rotation in Salazar and Carrasco. Corey Kluber was spectacular in what he did on pitching on short rest for this club.
Santana, a line drive home run to right field. The Indians didn't have a single base runner until 1 out in the 6th inning, and now suddenly they have a 4-0 lead with 1 out in the 7th.
We showed those numbers for Jason Hamill and 3rd time around the order, and how that can be a struggle at times. 338 batting average for him this year. Well, here now, 3rd time through the order. You got Indians hitters 3, 4, 6. There's an 85-mile-an-hour breaking ball. It is right over the heart of the plate. And as good as Jason Hamill was, and he dominated this lineup through the first 5 innings. 3rd time through now, we are seeing the Indians swing it very well.
Here's Urshela batting for the first time, and he rolls it out to Escobar. Well, it was pretty clear that Hamill was on top of his game in the early innings. He was using his curveball. He was getting ahead in the count. His pitch count was outstanding, and I think the Indians figured out his MO, because their 5 hits came on 16 pitches. So they weren't hanging around working deep counts. They realized Hamill was jumping ahead early, and they were jumping on him. And now Brandon Maurer loosens up in the Royals bullpen. Hamill still hasn't thrown 90 pitches as Zimmer grounds it out to Hosmer. He will race to the base, and Zimmer gets there in front of him.
That was a mental mistake there by Eric Hosmer, and I think forgetting about the speed of Bradley Zimmer, who absolutely busted it down the line. Now that feet first slide, I think, was more out of protection. Watch Eric Hosmer as he fields this ball, and he is a very good defender and kind of casually gets up. He almost thought about throwing that ball and then realized that he was going to be late, and so it was a late decision. And you see the reaction there from Jason Hamill, but just a little bit of a mental mistake there by Eric Hosmer, and that keeps this inning alive.
Had a Zimmer's second hit. It was his hit, which broke up the perfect game bid for Hamill with one out in the 6th inning. And now the inning continues to Roberto Perez. After retiring 16 in a row, Hamill gave up a 1-out single to Zimmer, and then Roberto Perez hit his 3rd home run of the year to left center field.
We had Zimmer at 3.9 to first base. Now he slid, so he goes straight through that bag, and it's even quicker. He's probably got 3.7, and who knows, maybe even a 3.6. Well, there's a home run from Roberto Perez, and it was a big one in a big spot, and that put the Indians on the board in the bottom of the 6th inning for their first 2 runs. One of 3 home runs that the Indians have hit here in the last 2 innings.
And now Zimmer runs. The pitch is a strike, and the throw ends up in center field. And Zimmer will race to 3rd with 2 down.
We'll make it now 16 out of 17 for the machine, Bradley Zimmer, this year with the stolen bases. And for Jason Hamill, the 17th stolen base that he has allowed out of 20 attempts. A lot of pressure on Salvador Perez to try to get this ball out of his glove and get it down to second base as quickly as he could. And a little bit of tail on the end of that throw as you see that ball kind of moving, almost like a really good sinker. Good heads up play by Bradley Zimmer, who has been very impressive. Couple of base hits and that great play that he made in center field.
Two and 2 on Perez. We asked Terry Francona how the rookie Zimmer handled an 0 for 36, and he was impressed. He knew on the inside he was just dying, but there wasn't throwing bats or throwing helmets or making it all about him. And now he's hitting well over 300 since the 0 for 36.
That's important. Every player goes into a slump, and more often than not, every rookie is going to go through some sort of slump. And as a manager and a coaching staff, you keep an eye on those guys and you watch how they handle it. Is the head down coming into the ballpark? Do the at-bats look like, you know, the concentration is not there? Is there extra pressure that they're putting on themselves? How are they reacting when they make outs? And so there was some talk about whether or not they would send him down, but they didn't. The AAA felt like he deserved to stay here, and he's done a nice job of working his way out of it.
Hamill walks his first, so he doesn't allow a single base runner in the first 5 innings. And then the Indians hit 3 home runs and score 4 in the last 2 innings. So Hamill will depart with runners at first and third and 2 down, and Brandon Maurer will come on to face Francisco Lindor. All forms of baseball and softball participation, making play opportunities available and fun for everyone. To learn more, go to playball.org.
See that thank you dad there from Jason Hamill on the sleeve, but his night is over as Brandon Maurer now will take over. See the 55 games combined for him between San Diego and Kansas City, in addition to this bullpen here in the middle of the season, and a live arm, a big one with some good velocity. As you see that pitch down and away, but the four-seam fastball will average 97 miles an hour this season.
Changeup makes it 2-0 on Lindor. Maurer was 20 out of 23 in save opportunities with the Padres. That'll be out of play. 2 balls and 1 strike.
You saw the changeup there. Mentioned the good velocity on the four-seam fastball. You'll also see a slider that sits around 86. This is a big arm from Brandon Maurer, and you saw that high ERA this year. And he really so far has failed to capitalize on what could be. He's 27 years old. This is the kind of arm you get excited about, and you can see a lot of upside. The strikeouts have been good this year, especially once he got here to Kansas City. 10 per 9. He has walked 8 hitters in his 11 2/3 innings of work as a member of the Royals.
Lindor is on with a walk, so back-to-back walks. Perez against Hamill, Lindor against Maurer, and they're loaded up for Austin Jackson.
See Hamill looking on. We had talked about his dominance through the first 5. First 2 times through the order, 2 for 18 with 4 strikeouts. As you see his overall line here tonight, he was excellent. 2 for 18, 4 strikeouts the first 2 times. But that 3rd time through the order, the Indians went 4 for 8 with a walk, including a couple of home runs. So things changed dramatically pretty quickly for Jason Hamill.
Oh, 1 on Jackson. He was 0 for 3 against Hamill. And 2 on Jackson, with Zimmer at 3rd, Perez at 2nd, and Lindor at 1st. Dad on his sleeve has deep meaning for Jason Hamill. He lost his father when he was just 17 years old, growing up in the Pacific Northwest, and it was a great start for him. The Indians were 0 for their first 16 against Hamill, and then 7 for their last 11. And the Indians lead 4-0. He's been that tonight. Carlos Santana hits a home run in the 7th inning, giving the Indians a 4-0 lead, and now back on defense as Dan Otero takes over and will get the top of the order for the Royals in the 8th.
Another important arm here for Terry Francona. You see the numbers there for Otero. The 33 strikeouts for him, but great walks for him, just 9 and nearly 50 innings worth of work. And what he does so well is keeps the baseball on the ground. 64% ground ball rate for OT, the nickname on the back of his jersey this weekend.
He'll get Merrifield, Kane, and Cabrera.
And you can see why. The movement there, the arm angle for Otero. The fastball will sit right around 89 miles an hour. There's a curveball and a changeup in there as well. Excuse me, a slider and a changeup. They're around 81, but it's the movement on the fastball that really helps him generate those ground balls.
Mike Clevenger went the first 6 and struck out a career high 9. Brian Shaw got 1 strikeout in the 7th. Chop to the left side. Lindor has to hurry. Merrifield can run, and there's 1 away.
Mike Clevenger had himself an excellent night here, tying a career high with 9 strikeouts, and here they are. Great location of the fastball, elevated when he wanted to, missed with a slider but still got the call. There was the good slider down and away. Another one there, the change of speeds, elevating against Alex Gordon. A change up there that Eric Hosmer had to look at, and the slower breaking ball to Salvador Perez. But a very nice night for Mike Clevenger, when it looked like for a little while he was getting outpitched by Jason Hamill, who was perfect through 5. Clevenger really responded. Excellent job. His 17th start of the season here tonight.
And there was no pattern looking at all those strikeouts. I mean, if it wasn't a different pitch, it was a different location or a different elevation.
Yeah, it's really important as well. You think about trying to go through a lineup a couple of different times. Of those 9 strikeouts, 4 on the fastball, 1 on the curveball, 3 on a slider, and 1 on the changeup. So you're absolutely right. Mike Clevenger was using it all tonight.
It may not seem like a big play right now because the Indians lead 4-0 in the 8th inning, but it was a huge play back in the 5th when, with no score, Lorenzo Cain hit a line drive to deep center field, and Bradley Zimmer, who didn't get a great initial read on the ball, used his speed and his athleticism and made a terrific diving play. So Cain is 0 for 3, and that's just a little bit outside. At the plate, Zimmer has a couple of hits, a run scored, and a stolen base.
I was talking about those ground balls for Otero. The ground ball rate for him, 7th best in Major League Baseball among relievers. Scott Alexander here with the Kansas City Royals, an absurd 75% ground ball rate. That is the best in all of baseball.
Here's Scott Alexander.
And some people say, well, it's kind of boring. Who cares about ground balls? But for me, and I think for a lot of managers, general managers, when you're constructing a bullpen, having that ground ball guy is really important. You love to have a couple of lefties as you can. You love to have your swing and miss closer, your kind of utility guy that you can use at any time, the different roles that you have. But a ground ball artist can be really important, especially a guy who's comfortable coming in the middle of innings with runners on base when you need a big double play. Those guys bring a ton of value. They don't get necessarily a lot of credit, because more often than not, when you are a ground ball pitcher, you're not getting a lot of swings and misses. So the strikeout rate is nothing that is impressive, but it is a valuable role in a bullpen.
And it's tough to put up a big number against a guy who's getting a lot of ground balls.
I don't see too many home runs hit on the ground.
Otero wants a new baseball.
Now there's no initials between the O and the T. So do you think that makes it odd? It's not OT, right? It's got to be odd.
I wondered that last night. I think it's OT.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
It's not odd. I don't know.
Well,
Straight guess on here. I probably should have thought about this before.
If his name was Otero, maybe.
Yeah, good point.
Urshela backhands. Throws a strike to Santana, and there are 2 outs in the 8th inning.
Well, Bradley Zimmer has had a really nice night, and we love talking about the athleticism. One of the fastest runners in the game, but he makes this great play. That is full extension in a big spot. The game was 0-0 at the time, and then he beats out this ground ball to first base. I mean, how often do you see that happen? Then the stolen base popping up, going to third as well. And so Bradley Zimmer, the athleticism, has been on display here tonight at Progressive Field. So if you're going to get confirmation on any kind of baseball information, Ken Rosenthal is number 1. John Paul Morosi's 1A. And Morosi told me that it is indeed OT for Otero.
Well, Otero lives up to his reputation with 3 ground ball outs in the 8th inning. Brandon Guyer in the middle and Andrew Miller on the right.
All right, so Gomes is a dead giveaway. Well, pretty close. You got a 50-50 shot of getting it right. I'm curious if an Indians fan
I think
could tell me
Guyer, with
why.
all the balls attached to him, because how often he gets hit by a pitch.
That is very smart.
Okay.
Very smart.
And Miller, that's his most recent look with the facial hair. Popped out to Escobar. Jose Ramirez is out on 1 pitch against Ryan Buchter, who takes over in the bottom of the 8th inning.
We'll take a look at Buchter, one of the other additions in this Kansas City Royals bullpen, also coming over from the San Diego Padres in the year that he has had. He's done a really nice job. 199, you see it there, the opponent's batting average for him, and he is a guy that you can bring in against both lefties and righties. Now, maybe not surprising, as we showed those baseball heads. You say, well, you know, I was curious who's doing that. Of course, it's a couple of starting pitchers that have absolutely nothing else to do at least 4 days out of the week. So it was Carlos Carrasco and Trevor Bauer that have been responsible for that. And that is some tremendous creativity.
Now, are they in position the entire game, or are they like rally dolls? Do they bring them out when the Indians are at the plate?
That I don't know, but I do know that those hats are tremendous, as they're wrapped with some pre-wrap there. You can get out of the trainer's kit. I'm guessing probably cut off the bottom of a cup to give it the shape, kind of what looks like the old round painter's cap that the Pirates used to wear back in the day. Those actually look a little bit nicer. Those painter caps were not attractive.
They didn't quite catch on like the Pirates had hoped. Right up there with the Chicago White Sox wearing shorts. Day games for a very short period of time.
Oh, I see what you did there.
3-1 on Encarnacion. He hit his 30th home run in the 7th inning. 3 balls and 2 strikes. He is the only current major leaguer with 6 consecutive 30 home run seasons. He and Mike Trout are the only major leaguers with 6 consecutive 25 or more home run seasons. That'll be out of play.
And I mentioned those numbers for Buchter and how good he has been against lefties and righties. And this is a treat when you can get a left-handed reliever who can put up a .205 batting average against lefties. That is very good. But a .195 batting average against right-handed hitters, and good strikeout to walk numbers on both of them. Too many lefties can do that. Andrew Miller certainly is one of them, but one that you could really count on and trust in big spots. He's certainly one of those guys.
Contrary to what a lot of fans think, one team doesn't try to beat another team in a trade. You hope the trade works for both, but the immediate reaction was that it was a better trade for the Royals than it was the Padres. Still 3-2.
Yeah, it's one of those things you never completely know. And we have seen some lopsided trades over the years, but maybe not lopsided at the time. And especially when you're the team that is sending, or I should say acquiring, the big leaguers, maybe in exchange for some minor league players. It always feels like the team that got the proven players is the one that won the deal. And yeah, everybody would like it to work out, but we will see. I mean, a couple of established big leaguers went over to San Diego in that deal. Travis Wood is one, but Matt Strom's probably the more interesting of the group. Good left-handed arm, still got a little bit of work to do.
Coming off knee surgery.
Yeah, we'll see what he turns into when it's all said and done.
And Buchter is a guy who really paid his dues. He's an easy guy to pull for, a 33rd round pick who didn't get to the big leagues until his 10th professional season. Jay Bruce with 2 down. He is 0 for 3. .33 home runs and 88 driven in with the Mets and the Indians.
He has crushed right-handed pitching. I know it doesn't apply here, but since he has come over, I know it hasn't been that long, and we talk about sample sizes and how many at-bats before you can take anything too seriously. Well, the Indians don't really care, but coming into tonight, .378 against right-handed pitching, and that's a good thing here. Now, this is not a lineup necessarily in Cleveland that was lopsided one way or the other. They have the benefit of all those switch hitters in Lindor, Ramirez, and Santana, but it is nice for them to get that steady left-handed bat in there. He's been very good here so far for the Indians.
Cody Allen is getting ready for the top of the 9th inning. And Bruce is on with a 4-pitch walk.
Well, the Indians have played some long ball here this evening against the Kansas City Royals, and we'll take you back to the first one of the night. Roberto Perez with his 3rd home run, a 2-run shot that put the Indians up 2-0. But then it was Edwin Encarnacion, a solo shot for him in the 7th. And then Carlos Santana with a line drive shot, his 19th of the year. And that is how the Indians have gotten all of their runs, 4 runs on 3 home runs tonight.
And another home run rip by Santana. He has more home runs, 26, and RBIs, 81, against the Royals than any other team. Out to Melky Cabrera. And we head to the 9th inning. Next Friday on FS1 as number 8 Washington takes on Rutgers, with coverage beginning at 7 Eastern. Then Saturday Maryland battles number 23 Texas at 11. On Sunday, check out Texas A&M as they face off with UCLA at the Rose Bowl at 7 on Fox. This is the second night in a row that Terry Francona has brought on his closer in a 4-0 game, a non-save situation. It's Cody Allen.
Yeah, 17 pitches that he threw last night, but had the three previous games off, or 3 days off, so should be good to go. 21 of 24 this year. You see those 51 innings and 69 strikeouts this year. It's amazing the swing and miss stuff that comes out of this Cleveland Indian bullpen.
Inside to Eric Hosmer, 2 balls and no strikes.
For Cody Allen, it is a 2-pitch mix. That is it. Fastball that sits at 94, and the curveball that averages 84.
Three and 0. The Royals have not scored a run since the second inning on Thursday. So they have gone 24 consecutive innings without scoring a run. That ties the Red Sox for the longest scoring drought in the big leagues this year.
A little bit of surprising run here, not a good one for the Kansas City Royals, and it's been kind of a strange year where things have happened in streaks. The slower start, the great run to get themselves back into this thing, and they're right in the mix. It's certainly not the right time to go cold. There is so much going on in that American League wild card race.
And for Royals fans, As frustrating as it can be at times, that's just kind of how this team rolls. They are very hot at the same time. They go cold at the same time. And to add to your point, CJ, the Royals, here's what they've done this year. They were 10 games under 500, right around 500 for the early May to early June, and then 15 games above 500, which included a 9-game winning streak. And now 10-16 since the 9-game winning streak. They've had a 9-game losing streak and a 9-game winning streak this year.
And that is baseball for you, unfortunately, for the Royals. But even though the division will be a challenge coming in tonight, 7 games back of the Cleveland Indians, but also looking up at the Minnesota Twins, they are absolutely a team that has a legitimate shot to be in the postseason, most likely as a wild card. I mean, you never know what can happen. We've seen some pretty big collapses in the past, but this Indians team looks pretty well built to hold on to their division. But they are currently, as it stands right now, 1 game back of the Twins for the second wild card.
Salvador Perez hits it into right center field, and Zimmer is there to make the play. Perez is 0 for 4. Now on the flip side, Terry Francona's Indians the last 2 years have been a model of consistency in winning the division last year. The Indians never lost more than 3 in a row, and that carried into the first half of this year. They did not lose more than 3 in a row in the first half this season.
And I think you can look at the good pitching that they have here. You have a bullpen that can pick up at starting rotation. Those games that they're not there, they're not getting it done. It's a deep enough bullpen to keep you in games. It's a good offense. Makes a lot of sense. They've done an excellent job here as far as how they've built this roster, and the Royals have as well. But the Cleveland Indians these last 2 years, you mentioned the surprise run earlier. You see the heavy shift here on Mike Moustakas, and that third baseline wide open. But also adding, you were talking about Boone Logan earlier. I mean, what a luxury to be able to add that kind of reliever. I think he's around $6.5 million. That's not something they were doing here in the past, especially when you already had Andrew Miller in that bullpen. But that postseason run gave them a little bit of money to spend, and they've spent it pretty wisely. And they've built themselves not just a deep 25, but beyond that, because they've used more than just 25. They got some good inventory here, and a team that seems like they are built to make a really nice run, not just this year, but even next year. They got 2 more years of Andrew Miller, including this one. They seem poised to, if they can stay healthy, to give themselves a chance at getting that ring.
2-1 on Moustakas, with Hosmer at first base and 1 out. On the other side, there's a sense of urgency for the Royals, a team that went to the World Series in 14, a team that won the World Series in 15, and the core that got them there, 5 of those players are going to be free agents at the end of this year. And if you added Melky Cabrera, who was acquired by the Royals this season, he will be a free agent at the end of the year. The guy at the plate, the man standing at first base, are among those becoming free agents.
Now, you know this team pretty well, and you never know what's going to happen. If you were to handicap it, of those big names, if you were to put a number, I don't want to put you in a bad spot to call out names. If you were to put a number on how many you think maybe the Royals could retain, is it more than 1 or 2? Is it more than 1?
They're going to try, I can tell you that. There is no feeling at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City that there is one scenario greater than the other. I think it's going to hinge on the players. With first base occupied, Moustakas has nowhere to go, but Hosmer will move up. So
there's the list. It's an impressive one.
If you want to handicap it, I mean, I guess you can begin with that guy right there, Eric Hosmer, who really is the face of the franchise. They have some depth in the outfield, but they don't have a true center fielder. They have a young shortstop, Raul Mondesi. They have a young third baseman, Cheslor Cuthbert. So there are some younger players that they can fill in, but it's the winning culture and the leadership,
sure,
that could be potentially lost.
Eric Hosmer's got himself a pretty good agent. Scott Boras, that'll make things a little bit more difficult as well. I've heard multiple times that Lorenzo Cain maybe seems to be the favorite that they could re-sign, or at least maybe, not that you want to pick, any of your favorite kids or favorite players, but like you said, based on what they already have. That might make the most sense if they're going to open the wallets up for anybody. Lorenzo Cain and Eric Hosmer may make the most sense.
0-2 on Escobar. So the Cleveland Indians are 1 strike away from building their lead to 6.5 games in the Central over Minnesota and 8 games over the Royals. Santana over to the Royals dugout. He's got it. That is the 5th time this year that the Cleveland Indians have shut out the Kansas City Royals. They did it last night 4-0, and they do it again tonight 4-0.
A couple of big things happening here. First, Mike Clevenger with the 9 strikeouts does an excellent job. But that man right there, Bradley Zimmer, what a big night for him. A couple of base hits, the stolen base, that excellent catch in center field, keeping the game at 0-0. And then the 3 home runs as well from the offense tonight. Roberto Perez, Edwin Encarnacion, and Carlos Santana. So an all-around really nice game here for the Indians. The bullpen did their thing, as they have done most of this year, and such a strong point here for the Royals, excuse me, for the Indians. So a well-played game by the Cleveland Indians tonight.
For producer Jim Murphy, director Steve Kurtenbach, for CJ Nitkowski, this is Ryan Lefevre. Thanks for watching. Now we head to Los Angeles with JP Morosi and Dontrell Willis. We send it to Mike Hill.